Queen Elizabeth I wasn't just a queen, she was a walking legend. She called herself the Virgin Queen, wore fancy dresses covered in jewels, and ruled with a sharp mind and strong hand. People remember her for her powerful court, beating the Spanish Armada and making England a strong Protestant country. But behind all that beauty and power, under the thick makeup and shiny pearls, was a woman full of fear, pride, and obsession. She cared deeply about how others saw her, and when it came to staying clean, things got really strange. Back then, hygiene wasn't about staying healthy. It was about looking good, and Queen Elizabeth turned it into a kind of performance. She thought water could make her sick. She was so afraid of getting old, she treated her body like something sacred, something that couldn't be touched by time or even by soap. In this video, we'll show you 5 of the weirdest and most shocking things Queen Elizabeth I did to stay clean. And the last one, you won't believe it. Elizabeth had a powerful addiction: sugar. At the time, sugar was not something everyone could afford. It was rare, expensive, and came all the way from far-off lands. Most people might never have tasted it in their lifetime, but for the Queen of England, it was everywhere. She didn't just enjoy sweets, she drowned in them. Her royal meals included candied violets, sugar-covered fruits, sweet almond marzipan, and desserts soaked in syrup. To have sugar was to show off your status. Elizabeth didn't just eat it, she used it to display England's growing power and wealth. But here's the shocking truth: this sweet obsession came with a terrible cost. In the 1500s, dental care was primitive. Toothbrushes were rough, and most people cleaned their teeth with twigs, rags, or crushed eggshells. The Queen, however, had her own special mix: a homemade toothpaste made of sugar and herbs. Yes, sugar. The very thing rotting her teeth was the same thing she used to try to clean them. To make it worse, she also used gritty powders that scratched away her tooth enamel. Over time, her once royal smile turned into something shocking. Foreign visitors noticed it. By the 1590s, her teeth were black, broken, or missing entirely. Her breath was said to be so foul it made people around her physically uncomfortable, and sometimes her words were hard to understand because she was speaking through a mouth of rot, yet she refused to let doctors pull them out. Elizabeth was known to be stubborn and terrified of pain. To convince her it wasn't deadly, one of her courtiers even volunteered to have a tooth pulled in front of her. Imagine that. Someone willingly screaming in agony just to get the Queen to open her mouth. But perhaps the strangest part was what happened next. Rather than mock her decaying teeth, the noble women in her court copied them. That's right, they blackened their own teeth with soot and charcoal to match the Queen's look. In her court, even tooth decay became a symbol of class. If the Queen had black teeth, then black teeth meant beauty, power, and wealth. The darker your smile, the richer you must be. In a world where everything the Queen did became fashion, even rotting teeth became desirable. That's the power of royalty. You may have heard the shocking quote, "I bathe once a month whether I need it or not." Some say Queen Elizabeth I really said it. Others say it's just a legend. But either way, it shows how people thought about cleanliness in the 1500s and how strange it was compared to today. Back then, water was seen as dangerous. People believed it could carry illness, weaken the body, and let in bad air, something they called miasma. This invisible poison was blamed for spreading deadly diseases like the plague. To many, taking a bath wasn't healthy. It was risky, so Queen Elizabeth avoided it. Instead of washing with soap and water, she had a different routine. She would change her linen underclothes, called shifts, sometimes several times a day. People believed that the soft fabric pulled sweat, dirt, and toxins out of the skin. No water needed, just fresh fabric. When she did freshen up, she used rose water, vinegar, or herbal mixes made by her royal apothecaries. These were gently dabbed onto her skin by handmaids. It was a slow, careful ritual, not for hygiene, but for appearances. Her body was treated more like a sacred object than a human one. It had to stay perfect at all costs. Why not just take a real bath? Because that was no small task. Her palaces had no plumbing, no running water. If she wanted a bath, it meant dragging out a giant wooden tub, heating dozens of buckets of water, and calling in at least 3 servants to pour, stir, and prepare. It was like planning a royal ceremony. Bathing was a luxury, not a habit. And yet people called her clean. She wore hundreds of gowns made of fine silk and velvet. She smelled like flowers and spices. She kept perfumed gloves, scented handkerchiefs, and demanded her appearance be flawless from head to toe. But all of this created an illusion of cleanliness, not real sanitation. There was no scrubbing, no rinsing, no soap. Elizabeth didn't avoid bathing because she was dirty or lazy. She avoided it because too much reality could ruin her perfect image. Water could smudge her white makeup. It could soften the illusion. It could make her human. And in her mind, a queen was not supposed to be human. Queen Elizabeth's face is one of the most famous in history, white as porcelain, smooth like a statue, and cold as stone. But that wasn't her real skin. It was a mask, carefully painted every day, not for beauty, but for power. In her time, pale skin meant wealth, class, and even a sign from God. The whiter you were, the higher you stood. So the queen took it to the extreme. She didn't just wear makeup, she used it to build a myth. A perfect version of herself that could never grow old or weak. Her favorite product? Venetian ceruse, a deadly mix of white lead and vinegar. It created a flawless look, hiding every blemish, scar, and shadow. But underneath, it was eating her alive. This poison soaked into her skin, causing rashes, open sores, and long-term scarring. As her real face was slowly destroyed, she simply added more layers of makeup, thicker and thicker, until her appearance became a frozen mask. But it didn't stop there. For her lips, she used bright red colors made from mercury, one of the most toxic substances on Earth. The more she used it, the sicker she became. Her mood changed, her memory faded, her body weakened, her hands sometimes trembled. These are classic signs of mercury poisoning, and the queen had no idea she was poisoning herself every time she painted her face. So why keep doing it? Because her face didn't just belong to her, it belonged to England. Her image was her weapon. It made her look eternal, untouchable, almost divine. Elizabeth I refused to let painters show her real face. Artists copied old portraits from her youth, freezing her in time. No matter how old she became, her image never aged. She avoided natural light. Candles and shadows hid the truth. By the end of her life, people whispered her makeup was so thick it could crack if touched. And still, she refused to wash it away, because beneath the white paint was not the immortal Virgin Queen, but an aging woman terrified of losing control. Did she know the makeup was poisoning her? Maybe. But she chose the mask over her own body. To Elizabeth, appearance was power. Every layer of powder, every drop of perfume, every carefully controlled portrait was part of a performance designed to hide weakness. In Tudor England, people believed bathing could spread disease. To Elizabeth, exposing the body meant exposing vulnerability. So instead of washing, she built another kind of cleanliness, one made of perfume, ritual, and illusion. Rose water, lavender oil, scented gloves, pomanders filled with herbs and flowers. She drifted through court like a living perfume cloud, untouched by ordinary human scent. And the message was clear: I am not like you. But beneath the powder and perfume, her body was falling apart. Years of toxic lead and mercury makeup scarred her skin and thinned her hair. Rumors spread of sores hidden beneath the famous white face. And still, she painted it thicker, because washing the makeup away meant destroying the illusion. To clean the body was to admit it was mortal, aging, human. And Elizabeth had spent her entire life convincing England she was something more. Her palaces looked magnificent. Gold, velvet, music, silk. But behind the beauty was filth. No plumbing, no toilets, chamber pots overflowing with waste, corridors filled with the smell of rot masked by herbs and perfume. Even the queen couldn't escape it, so she moved from palace to palace, fleeing the stench her own court created. But Elizabeth understood something powerful. Perception is everything. Her hygiene wasn't laziness. It was strategy. Every skipped bath, every wig, every painted face. A carefully crafted illusion of perfection. Water could wash away the fantasy. So she powdered, perfumed, posed, and became a legend.